Won't he do it? Yes, he will. What's going on, everybody? This is your boy, Dr. Will Rogers, a.k.a. Master Teacher 33. And tonight is, what is tonight? It is Thursday, that's right, Thursday, December the 16th, 2021, and the time is 6:45 Central Time. Brothers and sisters, we want to jump right in. We want to talk about automatic production. We want to talk about the genie and the genes. I need to go back and give you a history so that way you can really understand how your consciousness has been mapped and how to get past the way it's worded in the ancient text is the electronic fence that prohibits you from receiving the light to activate the dormant DNA. So what I did is I removed the fence. You ever seen those electronic fence on electric fence? Like some people out in the country I've seen it for like pigs and stuff where it's like a little line. And when they go up against that fence, it shocks the animal and it keeps them inside. That's what is preventing you from being successful. That's how it's described in the ancient text. So I'm going to be reading from my book, Genie and the Genes. I need you to understand that you are the genie over your genes. And to the degree that you are able to wrap your brain around it, what it does, it removes or changes your perception according to how to do what is called a mind hack. So this is called mind hacking. Now, I could just sit here and rattle off all of the proof that I have to give you so that way you could have proof of the statements that I'm about to make, of how the electrical energy that is present in the universe, that the Chinese and the Indians had figured out early on. All of the ancients in the East especially understood this, that when you enhance your chi within the solar plexus region of the body, this creates the energy, what they call the energy of the gods. If you keep in mind that in the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus said, lift up a rock and you will find me. So in the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus said, if you lift up a rock, you will find me. It says, if you split a piece of wood, there I will be. Notice he didn't say if you go into a church building made of brick and mortar. He said that he could be found under a rock, meaning he's everywhere. Meaning the ether, the etheric realm, has the potential to produce a automatic manifestation, meaning everything that the dominant culture does is based upon the ancient text. Now, this is all inside of my book, Vatican Control. So the Vatican knows that you are automatically designed by God for what I called forced or triggered outcomes. So there is a basic dormant frequency that automatically makes you successful. And the only way that you are not, I'm going to do it successful, the only way that you are not automatically wealthy, healthy, wise, and in a great relationship is because the previous program that you learned is more powerful than the underlying program that you've earned that's inside the DNA. So I'm talking to you, but I'm not triggering you. And so that's why you will hear me. If you really look at, I pretty much say the same thing over and over again in different shows and in different ways. Because what I'm doing is I'm trying to find the correct trigger for different people. Because I can say some things and it triggers someone. Some people actually need more of the militaristic, in your face, get your ass up and get the mother somebody. Some people respond to that type of, in your face, boot camp style, militaristic. And then some people don't. Some people are turned off. Like when I say boo boo, some people are turned off. When I say and talk, some people disconnect. And then some people connect. And so there's a fine line between helping people by connecting with people. But I know that at the base and at the root, that's not my job. That's not why I'm here. It's not my job to try to find out you. That's your job. My job is to teach. I'm a master teacher. My job is to replace error with truth. My job is to help you find and fulfill your God-given destiny and your God-given diaconia. That is my job. So there is a automatic plan production that is part of the neurological production that automatically get things done. That means that there are triggers that you don't even notice these triggers. They could be smells. It could be something that you see, something that you hear, something that you touch, something that you taste, something that you smell. These are all triggers. Those are your senses. So you're designed by source code to activate what's called a self map. And source code put that self map inside of letters and numbers and symbols and signs. They call those runes or sigils. So that automatically, bam, it triggers you. Now you remember, most of this stuff is below the threshold of your consciousness. What I do today, what I'm doing is I'm just making you conscious of it. So that way, when it happens, you'll be like, damn, you know what? Doc said that shit was going to happen. And then now, when you become conscious of it, that makes it happen faster. And it happens now because you get excited. You start to, you manifest results automatically. And so now everything that I do is automatic. So I automatically get results. So even when I'm not working out, I'm always thinking about working out. So I take weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month, 2 months off. But the whole time I'm not working out, I'm thinking about working out because I'm so used to working out. So I'm always creating the fence or the feeling or the field of someone who works out because I'm always in a mental disposition and a mental state of someone who is working out. Because in the back of my brain, I'm telling myself, work out, work out, work out, because it's an automatic trigger that has been established from all of my years of playing football, going to the military. Every job I had required me to maintain some level of fitness. So fitness is a part of my automatic, my ANS, my automatic nervous system. And so now what I talk about, there is a planned, forced production that you now are forcing yourself to do the opposite. So everything is a natural expression. It automatically just rolls off the tongue. The Bible says, and this is the message that we have heard from him, and we announce unto you, God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all. So each and every one of us, we are made up of light. In let me read also Numbers chapter 23 says, God is not a man, so he does not lie. He is not human, so he does not change his mind. He has not ever spoken and failed to act. He has never promised and not carried it out. So each and every one of us, we are receiving these signals, and they activate us on a cellular level. So at your base and at your underneath, there is light. This light is activating you because we're in the age of acquire, I, us. We are in the age of us, I, acquire. So the age of Aquarius is the word A-Q-U-R-I, which is acquire something. Then it's the letter I and us. Acquire, I, us. So this is the age by which Source is acquiring us. The age that he is, I'm going to use the word she, he, it is drawing us. Like it says in Luke chapter 22, verse 9, it says that when you enter the city, which means a human cell, there is a man carrying a jug of water. Follow him to the house he enters and say to him of that house, or say to the owner of the house, the teacher asked, where is the guest room where I may eat the Passover with my disciples? Now, I don't have time to break this down metaphysically, all of it, but this is what they are doing. The dominant culture is going into the cells using the death jab to enter into the house where it has the guest room where you may eat the Passover, the ability to pass over with the 12 disciples. that has some deep esoteric shitness in there. But that's the case of the automatic production. So there's a part of the human body and the cells that automatically produces the energy, the ATP that you need in order for you to automatically carry out the plan that's written inside of your genes. Because the genie is in the genes. It's not in your head. So you're living in your head, but you're supposed to be living in your genes. So most of us, we overthink everything because everything is in the head. So every cell in the body is an electrical generator. So the cell, or inside the cell, there's a sodium potassium pump. The sodium potassium pump, it is basically this pump that pumps in and out of the cell that causes an electrical field to operate around the cell. And due to the minerals inside the body, and also from the food that we consume, this sodium and potassium pump creates this electrical field that establishes these particles that allows us to operate and connect on the universal level. So all things are electric and magnetic. That's how we manifest. These are electrons and protons that come together that make up what we and I call molecules. And we all know the word El means God, the word pros in Greek means light. So remember, there are electrons and protons. There's neutrons, electrons, and protons. The neutrons are the trainers. They are called new trainers, neutron, new train. The electrons are El, anytime you see El means God. Pros in the Greek means light. These are the trainers of the light of God. That's what that means, inside of the body. So this is automatic. This has nothing to do with your brain. This has to do with your cells. Your brain is getting in the way. The brain is why you in Groundhog's Day. If you are thinking, you're sinking. The more you think, the more you sink. That's why I listen to people every day, and I just, the more they talk, I'm like, damn, if they could stop talking. But people can't stop talking. They can't stop thinking because they thinking. You can't stop thinking once you start thinking. The only way that you can think is you ain't got shit to do. And the only way you ain't got shit to do is you ain't got your purpose. And the only way you ain't got purpose is you ain't been listening to what I've been saying. It is not possible for you to not be you because I do 2 shows a day. And people are like, why do I do these shows? I do these shows so nobody could tell me that, Doc, you didn't tell me. Doc, I don't know. I do 2 shows a day. I got 5,000 free shows. You can go to my Blog Talk channel. Just go to blogtalk.com/MasterTeacher33. Any question you got, I've already answered. Any question. There's nobody on this call that can ask me a question that I have not already answered. Nobody. So there's no reason. Nobody on this call should be in Groundhog Day. Or off the call. Anybody that's going to be listening to this call 5 years later. There is no reason anybody should be on Groundhog Day. No reason. Because any question that you can ask, I've already answered. So what I just said is that, let me say that again. Because see, 1 electron and 1 proton together is a hydrogen atom. I don't know if you, Father plus the mind, will, emotion, matter, one, just one. You got billions of them. Do you guys remember what we said today? The guy that was talking today was saying that the jinns, which operate the sand, which operate the body, they know whether or not you are a hydrogen being or not. And they can only attack hydrogen beings because only hydrogen beings are what was inside of the movie enhanced, which means that energy cannot be created. It cannot be destroyed. It can never die. So God put that piece of energy inside of you. So electrons and protons, they can't be seen, they can't be smelled, they can't be weighed, they can't be touched, yet they exist. That's what they call ghost particles. So these ghost particles on a cellular level, those are the particles that contain the plan of production that allows you to get money, keep money, spend money. So you're always getting money. You can never be broke. You're always keeping money, and you're always spending money. But remember, spending, S-P-E-N-D, is spending, S-P-I-N-N-I-N-G. So the way that you spend money is the way that you spend. So the feeling that you have when you spend money is the feel that you create around your aura. Now, I got to read something that's the most dangerous thing that you will ever hear. And I'm hoping that you are on the level where there is no devil. Because right now you are thinking too much. We're all, especially during the holidays. Because when you're on holidays, you have time because you take off from your job. And because you have time, it occupies your mind. Because remember, the mind is supposed to take you out of time. Because the mind is the map of the consciousness. Because chemistry that is created in the brain is a result of the thoughts that you maintain. So if you're thinking, that simply means that let me know that there is no internal government. Because if there's internal government, there can be no external institutionalization, meaning that there's a lack of internal government creates what is called public chaos. Chaos means the eradication of internal law. That just simply means that you're overthinking. But why would we overthink? Well, I got to read something to you. Please follow me. I'm reading from my book, Genie in the Genes. And you have this. It's in Module 6. So inside the book, Genie in the Genes, on page 80, I read from this ancient text that your boy Zachariah Sitchin, which is called the cuneiform text, broke down. It reads, genetic engineering has been around for a long time. According to the ancient text, Ea and Nishinza, they copulated with the existing ape woman or the mitochondrial Eve, the original black woman, we'll put it that way, of Homo erectus, not Homo magnon, Homo erectus. Now, Homo erectus was already here. They already existed on planet Earth. So the green ones, the Houthi, the Nibiru, they came down and they interacted, had sex with, whatever word you want to use, because, again, they wanted to create a worker race. Now, we all heard that before, but it didn't work. So the ape woman, they tried different things, but they couldn't talk. So they genetically engineered the existing hominoid, but when the hominoid came out, it couldn't talk. So they went back again. Then they did it again and said the internal organs didn't work properly. And then they did it again and said the hand dexterity didn't work. Now, all this is inside of the book, Genie and the Genes. Because what we're talking about tonight is you are genetically engineered by the Anunnakis, if you want to use that term, to be able to automatically produce production. We call that work. So you are designed based upon a plan of production. So the plan, this is called forced production. It's called triggered outcomes. It's in your DNA. So your DNA triggers you. All I got to do is say the right words and I can trigger you. And so this is how CIA also developed all of their stuff when it comes to understanding profiling. So if I'm doing criminal profiling, I can know what a criminal is going to do based on the profile. The profile is the letters. The letters is your name and your date of birth. So I can tell you what you're going to do based upon your letters and your DNA as the two CIA guys that I know, the two FBI guys, again, that I did reports for, who told me the same thing, which was, how did you develop that DNA report? And based upon the video that we heard this morning, doing the 12 News show, if you guys didn't hear that video by Sheikh Shakan, or Shah, how you say his name, Nurjan Muhammad, you can Google that name. The last name is M-I-R-H-M-A-D. Last name M-I-R-H-M-A-D. He explains Sanskrit, sand, silicone. They can only live there. That's why I said all the ancient text is written in Sanskrit, because that's the home of the jinn. But remember, jinn is code for electricity and magnetism. We call that currents. So we call that thoughts. So thoughts, when you live in thoughts, that's how I know you're possessed by jinns. So when you have a bunch of thoughts, You are, remember, thinking is sinking. Only knowing is growing. You got to replace thoughts with what you know. So if you, anytime your thoughts start racing, you got to stop and you ask yourself, what do I know? Okay, that means what do you know? You got to go back to your past because your past is in your past. So if I tell you, hey, what is your story? What are you going to say? You got to tell me about a past event. Any event. Do you remember? Think. Now, thinking about what? People think about shit that they don't know nothing about. That's the gens. The gens paralyze you. That's what ADHD, that's what bipolar disorder, that's what fear, doubt, all of the, and again, we're going to break down probably tomorrow the map of consciousness. That show you definitely want to listen to because I'm going to tell you what frequency you're on and why you're not producing electricity and magnetism to automatically produce. So when I wake up in the morning, I automatically know what to do. I don't write nothing down. I don't call nobody. I don't contact. I know because it's in my genes. So I have a urge, even when it comes to my diet, I know what to eat. I know what to do. How do I know? Well, let's go back to the book where it says that the Anunnaki, those of royal bloods are believed to be immortal gods that inhabited the earth during the ancient Samaritan time in Mesopotamia. It is believed that they came from the east or the upward expanse of the north. Now, remember, if you read your Bible, that's where Jesus said he's from. Go look up when they ask Jesus. Jesus says, I am from above, you are from below. Look up the definition of the word above inside the Bible. You will see upward expanse of the north. That's royalty. Now, remember, my FBI buddies, they all say that everybody who is born of this blood since birth, they are tracked. The FBI, the CIA, they monitor you and your family if you have this royal blood. Some people say it's AB, some people say it's O. Nobody knows. Everybody can guesstimate. Really? It ain't no big deal. Nobody cares. Why? It don't put no money in your pocket. So let me go back to the story. It is believed that they came from the east or the upper expanse of the north. Many believe that the humans are genetically engineered slave race for the Anunnaki. So the Anunnaki were genetic engineers. Many ancient texts talk about human civilizations in Sumner of Mesopotamia that was set up under the guidance of 3 gods and a human kingship, where we get, again, lordship, kingships, ships as in maritime vessel, kingship. So, and it was inaugurated, they were inaugurated to serve as a mediator between mankind and the Anunnakis. So, earthly kings, you go to the book of Kings, you will see a list of kings. Those were people appointed by the Anunnaki, whether they knew it or not. It was in their blood. The Ajiji, I-G, remember, Quita Mutwa was an Ajiji, from Africa. The Ajiji seem to have been a lower rank of gods that were a servant class which existed before humanity and our humans, before humanity and our human beings were created. So the Ajiji were a working class, but they were still part of the Anunnaki. Now remember, those were like people over in Africa that were all the great warriors, the people who built, the university. Remember in Timbuktu, the oldest university? And my boy, a lot of the great warriors over in Africa, they were all part of the Ajiji, or some of them were descendants of the Ajiji. So according to the ancient text, at some point in time, labor was too intense for the Anunnaki and the Ajiji. So the Anunnaki pantheon, under the leadership of King Anu, the great father of the sky, also known as An, A-N, and Anu was the original supreme ruler of Mesopotamia gods. He did not have parents he did have parents who were 2 pre-mortal gods named Kishar and Ashar, A-N-S-H-A-R. But they did not play a role in the genetic engineering that took place on Earth, for they were still on the planet Nibiru. So according to Zechariah Stitchin and the ancient Samaritan text, humanity would have naturally evolved without the help of the gods who engaged in genetic manipulation, although it would have taken much longer. So remember, this is the biggest mistake that Christians make, because the Anunnakis are not gods. The God in the Bible is Jehovah, who's an Anunnaki. The Lord of hosts, everything is about the Anunnakis. They ain't gods. They're creators. That's why we have a creator God. That's why it says Elohim, in the beginning God. No, we go back to Genesis 1. And that word I talked about, it means spaceship. So the word that gives us, and that word ruach, inside of my book, which again, you can look it up yourself, it means the spaceship or ship that hovers. So this is kingship. They're kings who came on a ship, a spaceship. That's where the whole alien story comes from. Now, whether you believe or not, that shit is in stone. So unless somebody put that shit fake, like when I talk to Christians, they tell me, well, brother, your research could be, how do you know that, the Samaritan text, all that shit that they found in stone, people fake by carbon dating, placing shit in the oven, make it look like it's older than what it is, go outside and bury it, and then 5 years later come back and dig it up and say, oh, yeah, look what I found. Could that happen? Absolutely. I ain't saying this shit is the truth. I'm just reading you ancient texts. Now, whether you believe it or not, your gut should tell you whether it's true or not. My gut works for me. So according to Zachariah Stitchin, humanity would have evolved with or without their help anyway. He estimated, however, it would have took a lot longer. So we would have been slower down the rabbit trail. So what's the point, Doc? Well, when you look at the story, and when you look at this, the regular apes, if you go back with like orangutans and gorillas and all this stuff, what Zachariah Stitchin was unaware of was that the ape man and the Anunnaki, I'm going to use the word geneticists, they were working with something that is called a living library. Now, the living library is something that's inside of the 12-strand DNA. There were, and I've talked about this inside of my book, The Ontological History of Mankind. There were people here called the turtle people. There's people here, and they were all named after different animals. There was the bird people. That's why in our planet, Earth, most of the royalty, look at the flags, they have some kind of a bird. Usually it looks like an eagle. A lot of times we all know, it is like a phoenix. Look at Great Britain, look at Scotland, look at Ireland, look at all of the flags, there's a bird. So there, and remember, inside of my book, The Ontological History of Mankind, I break all of this down. Those are the bird people. Well, one of these types of people was called the Lyrians or the Lycans. Remember, Blade, Trinity, they're fighting against, remember, the werewolf, the Lycans? That's in the Bible. They call wolves, the wolf people. So there was a war that broke out between the Lyrians, Lyran, and the Anunnaki. The latter were taking their most precious part of their own living library, the DNA, the 12-strand DNA, human, and they deactivated 10 of those 12 strands. They took the remaining 2 strands, which eventually became Homo sapien sapien. There was already Homo sapien. But they created Homo sapien sapien, which means the thinking man. This is why you are in trouble. When you think. When you start thinking, you deactivate your 12-strand DNA because you are activating the reptilian brain. Thinking is how you activate the reptile brain. Remember, the word Homo sapien sapien means thinking man. Let me continue. There was no way for the Anunnaki to be able to work with beings who possessed 12-strand double helix DNA because they would have been too smart and too perceptive. The way that you know that the 12-strand DNA is activated, as I will prove tomorrow when I go through the 12 strands, which is really 9, 3, 6, 9, or what I call the map of consciousness. We'll probably break that down tomorrow. So the Anunnakis was like, hey, we got to figure out, we can't give these fools because they're too perceptive. They have discernment. So discernment is how you know whether or not your DNA is activated. On the other hand, the regular ape man was too stupid to work with the Anunnakis. So it was easier for the scientists to cut than to add. And then Dr. Assistant goes on, and inside the book I explain what they mean by, by adding or cutting, meaning reducing 12-strand DNA down to 2 strands instead of taking 2-strand DNA and adding 10 strands. So what they did was they reduced their own DNA or interjected their own DNA, living library, into our living library. And then they reduced it down. What does that mean? Well, the record says this, and this is the important part, that the Anunnakis did by erasing and changing records. The Anunnaki scientists basically took the key to the living library, your DNA, and they ran off the original planners and destroyed the holders of the frequency of light. They destroyed what is called the language of light. The original planners destroyed the language of light. They destroyed the holders of the frequency of the language of light. In the Samaritan text, it reads, upon that, after they have created a human who was smart enough to follow commands, but not smart enough to challenge the gods, they created a frequency fence so that the light from the cosmos necessary to activate the junk DNA or the dormant 10 strands of the DNA could not reach the human body. Let me say this again in English so you can understand why you do not produce automatically like I do, and the people who are on a higher level of consciousness. Higher level of consciousness simply means intuition. Intuition simply means perception. Perception simply means you have a feeling that is so powerful it makes you stop thinking. Now, in Mine Hawk, all the Navy SEALs, when I was in the Marines, what they taught us when we were caught behind enemy lines, how to deactivate the amygdala and the hypothalamus so when you go through torture, you don't feel pain. That's what Wim Hof does. So there's a way that you can deactivate the pain sensors in the brain so that you don't experience the pain. It is mind over matter. All of the Navy SEALs and all these knuckleheads, they were trained, and they still are being trained in that. So that way they can undergo, if necessary, if they're caught behind enemy lines, so they know what to do. But the Anunnakis, what they did is they put up in our atmosphere an electrical fence, according to their definition, that blocks the sun's rays that activates your DNA, which makes you conscious. What is consciousness? Awareness. What is awareness? Perception. Remember, your life is based upon your perception. It's not based upon reality. This is the secrets of mind, body, spirit. Let me say this again. So anytime there is a problem perceived, what do you have to do? Change the perception. How do you do that? You examine the electrical fence. See, the whole universe is electrical. It is just full of electrons and protons. But you got to remember, the word electron means El in Hebrew, which means God. The word proton means pros in Greek, which means light. So let me say it again. The whole universe is full of electrons and protons. One electron and one proton together equals a hydrogen atom. So hydrogen is the number one element on the periodic table, and hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe. All other gases and substances are built from a hydrogen atom. So remember, hydrogen comes from the sun. So the sun is a burning ball of hydrogen that gives us what we call life. Hydrogen, though, is an electron and a proton that produces hydrogen. Then you add a neutron that produces us because we have neurons. So my neurons, your brain, which is made up of billions and billions of neurons, they are activated by an electron and a proton that comes together. Because an electron, the L or the elect, means God. Pros in the Greek means light. So you are a light God or a God light that's contained inside of a neuron or a neutron. Your neurons are little packages of light, which are what they call I'm going to use the word what I call God. I call God. So the universe is full of light beings that are God. We call that chi, or Kai, K-I. Now, different cultures call it different things. At the end of the day, your job is to over, and understand that you are an individual electrical magnetic particle of source code on Earth. This energy, the one power inside the wheel of time, is neutral. That's why it's called a neuron. So you are a God light that is neutral. But God light, that means pneuma or ruach, depending on who you talk to, inside of sand. That's where we get the word Sanskrit. That's what we talked about today. We get the word genie. So the genie, this God light, is inside of the genie. Now the question is, what controls the God light? The electron and the proton that's inside of the genie. Well, Sanskrit. Well, what is Sanskrit? It controls sand. That's the name. Script, which means a story. Sand, which means your body. So Sanskrit is the language, the original language. The Bhagavad Gita is still written in Sanskrit today. It's a Hindu language. But we converted the sand, or the script that controls the sand. The word Sanskrit means script that controls sand. So your production is controlled by your script. So if you have no automatic production, you have no script. If you have no script, you have to resort to what we call thinking. Thinking is for people with no scripts. Because if you have a script, it activates the sand. It is simply the electrical energy present in the universe that is controlled by an electron and a proton. And the word electron means God. The word proton means pros in the Greek, which means light, God light. So gods with light inhabit what is called neutrons. This is an electrical magnetic energy. That's you. So inside your brain, you have billions of neurons that are made up of these electrical magnetic components. We call it photons and phonons. Photons are messenger particles of light. These messenger particles of light we call angles of light. And these angles, some of the angles are bent down. Some of the angles are bent up. You control the bend of the angle of the photon, which is made up of a neuron, which is made up of an electron, which is made up of a proton. But you control it with what? You're not control it with your brain. You're supposed to control it with your gut, your perception. The brain, remember, is the assembler of the intuition. But you don't have no intuition. How do I know? Because you're thinking. Remember, thinking is thinking. Knowing is growing. So you're supposed to tell me what you know. Because what you know is how you grow. But what do you know? What you know is inside of your DNA. Remember what we talked about? It's called the life library. We call it the asterisk records. The Bible calls it the book of life. So you're not supposed to think. The brain is supposed to be a computer to carry out or to take instructions by which comes up from the gut. The brain is not supposed to be, my computer only does the command that's based upon the script. But you don't have no script. Why not? Because your script is in your DNA. But you don't have your DNA. Your DNA is dormant. So the dominant culture wrote you a script. And now you are following the wrong script. So your sand is connected to the wrong script. Sanskrit controls the temple. But you're supposed to be controlling the temple with astrotheology. With understand that Psalms 8:3 says, when I consider the heavens, the work of the fingers, the moon and the stars, which were set in place. Psalms 19:1 says, for the director of music, a psalm of David, the heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Psalms 147 verse 4 says, he has determined the number of the stars, and he calls each of them by their name. Source code. The heavens are God's handiwork. You're supposed to get your instructions from there, not from TD or Creflo, unless they have consulted with the stars, a.k.a. the cosmos. That's why I use cosmology, theology, body. So my cosmology wrote my theology controls my body. So if you don't do that, you got to think. You got to come up with some shit. And what you're thinking, guess where you're getting that from? You're getting it from Saturn. Because Saturn is full of Satan, which means electricity and magnetism. We call that shit language. So somebody, whatever you're thinking, because you learned it from a book, you learned it from somebody, you ain't using your intuition. Because you're not producing automatically. So in the morning, I can't not produce. Why not? Because my gut is overriding my brain. My brain says, don't work out today. But I'm on automatic pilot. My brain says, you got enough money, don't get money. But I'm on automatic pilot. Because my brain doesn't know that money is not paper. Because my brain is programmed by the dominant culture that think money is paper. My gut knows that money is currency. It's a frequency. It's a wave. It's a vibration. So there's a war going on between my gut and my brain. And my heart helps me maintain. The war between my gut and my brain, my heart helps me maintain. Because my heart is an amplifier. And it amplifies the one power. So my heart is not going to amplify whack shit. I feel it. I know. Now remember, I don't think. I know stealing is wrong. I don't need no motherfucker. This shit's internal, man. You know the shit you're doing is wrong. You know. Now you can tell other people, but you can't tell me. I know you know what to do. How come you don't do it? Now, how come you don't do it? Because you're thinking. Why are you thinking? Because you're not acting upon your gut. Your gut tells you. But you know damn well that you are not listening to your gut. Because you care. Caring is Groundhog's Day. Caring is Luciferian. Because caring means you are not following the living library. You are deactivating your 12-strand DNA, and you're activating the 2-strand. You're not walking in the spirit. Because you walk in the spirit, you cannot fulfill the lust of the flesh. Because the spirit wars against the flesh wars against the spirit. The two are contrary to one another. The spirit is knowing, the flesh is thinking. So the more you think, the less you know. The more you think, the less you grow. That's why I can always tell a Negro in Groundhog's Day. Always, because he's always thinking. He's always talking. He always pondering. He always wondering. He never do nothing. Why? Because he knows what to do. How come he don't do it? Because he knows if he does what he knows, he's guaranteed to grow. And there is safety in failure. What does failure do for you? Failure is your glue. Think about failure. What is failure? When you fail, you stay where you at. It's known. You would rather stay in a known hell instead of go to an unknown heaven. There's not a mother. I've never met a man, woman, child, monkey, or squirrel that would go to a unknown heaven. Because you don't know what's behind door number one. You would rather stay. You know what's behind door number two. Same shit you've been doing all your life. But you're comfortable with door number two because it's known. It doesn't require what? Faith. Door number two, thinking, you just think about, thinking just regurgitates old shit. So it doesn't require no effort. It doesn't pull you out of your safety net. Failure is your launching pad to the mundane. It allows you to spin your wheels and stay on the same chessboard. See, the game of life is about evolving. It's about moving forward. It's about intentionally, friendly, generously, considerately, voluntarily, originally, valuably. Remember we broke those down? So that's all automatic. How is it automatic though, Doc? Because, let's go back and read it again. After they have created humanity, or Homo sapien sapien, which means the thinking man. After they had created the thinking man, who was smart enough to follow commands, but not smart enough to challenge the gods, they created a frequency fence so that the light from the cosmos necessary to activate the dormant 10 strands of their DNA could not reach their human body. However, what the original planners did before the Anunnaki took over was to plant an activating code inside of every human's DNA. And again, we know we're not humans, but that's how Zachariah Sitchin translated. And they were never aware of it. And they thought that they could deal with it when it happened. This is the thing that never happened. The Lyrans, or the Lycans, Lyrans, with their long thoughts decided in the ancient past that now is the time to activate the code if something would go wrong. The energies from the cosmos was very strong right now before the solar system is aligning with the galactic center. However, this has happened before every 26,950 years to be exact. But the mass awakening has not taken place to this date. So the bringers of the dawn, when they had encoded light brought on mainly by gamma brain waves or gamma rays that are released by the coronal mass ejections that are solar flares that when released hit the earth. But if there is no one there to receive them, nothing is going to happen. No one and nothing is going to be activated. That's why they give you the death jab to get your ass off this planet before you get activated. However, when the activation code is being activated, more and more people are receiving information from space-time continuum and become enlightened as their junk DNA gets reactivated. We, the bringers of the dawn, are striving towards a full activation of the Earth being's full potential. This is something that not even the rogue scientists of the Anunnakis had realized. If they could open up, they could really be helpful. Now, this gets into what you are supposed to do do what I did. So that way, now I'm on automatic pilot, meaning that I've unlocked my DNA so I can automatically produce. So, like today, and really like all month, I have not been on I'm going to use my word, extreme production. Yet, I think I did 3 Deaconing reports today. This is my second show. I did, 3 one-on-ones, worked out this morning, get ready to do my second workout later on, hang out with you guys. I'll probably watch some more videos on, some more information that I'm going to be digesting so that way I stay up to date on the NFT stuff and all this new technology, stuff that's coming out. So remember, this is the time I normally, I tell you guys, September, October, November, December, this is usually I crash and burn. Now, since I've done this and put myself on automatic pilot, so that way I'm forced. This is forced production. Oh, man, if you guys, I wish to God you could understand this. Because the CIA knows this about you. The brain is the chemist. They know that if your mind is full, this is how they made Aladdin, the AI robot. Again, Google Aladdin, AI robot. That basically is making all of the 1%, they've all tripled their income because the robot is telling them what to do. So the dominant culture, they have a program, an algorithm that allows them to produce guaranteed results. So they know what to invest in and where to go and what not to invest in. And they gave us Norman, which is a psychopathic, narcissist computer program. So you are programmed for failure unless you hook up with the dominant culture or you do what I did. What did I do? I rewrote my own program. How did I rewrite it? I activated my DNA. How did I activate my DNA? Let's go back. Some may argue that after all, the ape-man and ape-woman that Ea and his team were working on were, after all, just primitive apes. My answer to that would be that is not true. Your ancestors were not nearly an intelligent ape. They were actually beings, or what we call human beings. And then it goes on, yet the difference between them working on and activating the 12-strand DNA of the gods and the Anunnaki doing their genetic engineering is a big difference. It's the difference between enslavement within a frequency band called 3D density and being multidimensional. So the difference of what I've done and what I want to do for you is what they call blank slate technology, or BST. Now remember, this is some dangerous shit. This is CIA crap. Like a lot of stuff I talk about, I don't recommend like posting this shit on Facebook. Now you can do some. I mean, I'm still in Facebook jail and YouTube jail and all this other crap. All I'm simply saying is that at the highest levels, there's a private school that is called the Future Leaders of Tomorrow. Is ran by Charles Kloss. Remember, he's the guy that everything that we're doing, one world, digital currency, cryptocurrency, everything is. It's not, man, his name is not Charles Kloss. What's his last name? I forgot his last name, but I know his first name is Kloss. And what's his first name? Is it Schwab? I forgot his first name. Yeah, I think it's Schwab or Klaus Schwab or Klaus. Yeah, Klaus Schwab. SCHWAB. I think that's it. Klaus. So anyway, he's a German Nazi dude. He's over the World Economic Forum. Again, Google World Economic Forum CEO. Everything that is happening, he wrote a book called COVID-19, The Great Reset. He also wrote a book called The Fourth Industrial Revolution, both of which I've read a long time ago. Everything that's happened is inside of that book. Or everything that is happening is inside of that book. Well, Charles, this Schwab dude, he's the, he was the president of the future leaders of tomorrow. Everybody that's in politics at a high level, all of the leaders of the world, they all go through or went through the Young Global Leaders, future things I can call Young Global Leaders, Future Leaders of Tomorrow. These are all part of the LPGCs. They are under what they call the House of the King, or the House of the how can I put this delicately? House of the Samai. It's spelled SAMAI. It stands for something which we'll debate. I'll break that down later. So there's a guy by the name of Chris H. Hardy, Hardy, PhD. Chris H. Hardy is one of the guys that has a lot of, I wrote a book. I forgot the title of the book, but I remember he breaks down a lot of the battle that you are going through right now, mentally. The genetic engineering of the Adamic human race, they created an electrical fence that keeps you trapped in 3D. That's why everything that you do, kind of sort of not your fault, but it is your fault, because now you're a grown-ass man. You know that something's not right, but you settle. You ain't fighting it. You just thinking about it. Thinking is how you activate the reptilian brain. So you got to take, as the Bible says. The Bible says do what? Take no thought as to what you shall eat, what you shall drink. The Bible says when it's time to speak, don't write shit down. Take no thought. So that's what I do. Before I do programs, shows, I just come off the dome. Because we have to understand that I can't read all of this, but let me just read, again, and this is all inside of the book, Genie and the Genes. So if you want to really get deep into the genetics of what, again, they call the algorithm of human emotion. That's a CIA term. And this is understanding what they call becoming a human mind expert or mind hacking. They know that you have what they call it a self map, and it drives you into action. You cannot stop. You are forced. In other words, they got a program that I'm gonna use the SSS, the silent sound spectrum, to pipe that your buzzword into your head, and you can, like, people just be walking and they flip out. That means that they got activated. Like the one lady who was driving with her baby, she turned her car, black lady, and she ran into the wash. I remember way back when Obama was president. Bam, she got activated. Everybody got a buzzword that you're programmed by your handler. You don't even know. A lot of this stuff happens when you sleep. Now, I know, hopefully you don't believe none of this shit, because, again, this ain't got nothing to do, this is some high-level shit. But at the end of the day, you have to rewrite your trigger. There are triggered responses. These are called triggered outcomes. So the triggered outcomes is why you can't be successful. Because every time you start climbing the ladder, bam, we trigger your outcome. You start making too much money, trigger your outcome. We trigger your, that's what all the training I went through as a kid. Because certain bloodlines, certain people, they got a trauma-induced mind control when you're little. And the best way to do that is through, again, anal or sexual, manipulation. So you get molested when you're a kid. Because that's the best way, again, to do trauma bonding. And so for me, it was always sexual stuff. That was always my trigger. So I had to finally defeat that demon, which is what I did. Now it's just automatic. If I would not have defeated that sexual trauma-induced mind control, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. I wouldn't have made that much money. I wouldn't have made 3 times as much money this year doing 3 times less work. Now money flows to me easily and effortlessly from all directions. You have to defeat your demon. Everybody got a different one. That's why I used to always see Minotaur in my brain. My last thing, and I'll wrap it up with this, man. I had a high-level client told me that you used to be an Egyptian pharaoh. She contacted me out of the blue. This is somebody, if I said her name, you probably would know. Big time Hollywood person. So that she explained to me the guy, well, that's probably too much information for you guys. But anyway, everybody has an ancestral, what's the word, source code. It's not a demon. The Bible says it this way. The sins of the father is passed down to the son, to the third, fourth, fifth generation. And if you don't defeat that, you pass it down to your generation. So the sins of the father is passed down to the third and fourth. Deuteronomy, let me look it up. Here we go. Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 9. It's also in the book of Numbers, chapter 14, verse 18. These are Exodus chapter 34, verse 7 also. God visits the iniquity of the fathers on to the children and the children's children to the third and to the fourth generation. 4 or 5 verses in the Bible that talks about third and fourth generations. So if I didn't deal with the Minotaur, which means, again, many stars, which means minister, everybody in my family preaches. That's the demon, religion. That's the disdain I've had with religion all my life. I don't know. I was born with that healthy disdain. I was very rebellious. Used to get my ass whooped all the time. Why? Because I did something in my gut. See, you have to think if you don't follow your gut. I'm doing what my generation, my father's father didn't do. The third, fourth generation, now it's on me. If I don't do it, BJ got it. BJ is not religious because the shit stopped with me. That demon that I should see in my sleep every night, that dude with the bull's head, the bull, the bull? What is the bull? Taurus. What is Taurus? Toroidal. Do y'all remember the book that I wrote on toroidal energy? I had to deal and I had to destroy the Taurus. The Taurus is Horus. I did the whole show on the whore. W-H-O-R-E. You guys remember that? That shit's on Blog Talk, still out there. That was my generational curse passed down from my father's father's father. You got one too. That's the electrical fence that keep you in thinking mode, where you're in Groundhog's Day, where you always analyzing shit and you can't do nothing until you deal with that demon. Now, everybody, I don't know what yours is. Well, I do know what yours is. The reverse. You look at your numbers. Just in your numbers. I'm a 6. 6 is upside down 9. I have to turn the 6 back up. I was born an upside down 9. I was royalty. I had somebody say, like, this shit happens to me all the time. But I got to be careful because they send witches to me all the time. Now, this person probably, because they was in Hollywood, probably is a witch. But remember, they come to, like, in the movie The Witch Hunter, they have the truth. But just like in the movie that I just watched, I told you guys to watch The Unholy. I tell you, man, I'm telling y'all, this shit, they put this shit in plain sight. Every time God builds a church, the devil builds a chapel. Just because your ass is called to do greatness, you're going to experience weakness. Because you are the devil's whooping boy until you whoop his ass and make him carry your luggage. Until then, you taking orders from him. That shit's called an addiction. All my addictions are gone now. That's why I'm successful now. Why? My brain is full. I have no room in my brain for crazy. So crazy say, hey, doc, come on, bro. Let me back in. My mind is full. Why, though? I don't think anymore. Why? Well, why would I think? What am I thinking about? Thinking implies not knowing. So I already got knowing. It's just in my DNA. It was placed there before I was born. So the ancient text says that when Anu and Enlil voted in favor of the genetic engineering of the earthborn humanoids, it was with the aim of creating slave workers, what is called Lulus. Anybody remember the name of the website I used to use to publish all my books? Lulu. You guys remember the first search engine I used to use? Yahoo. What's his name? Yahoo. They just left out the Yahoo. They had this shit in plain sight. You attracted to it. You don't even know why. I was always attracted to it, and I've always used Lulu. The original slave workers was called the Lulus, Lulu. In the mind of Enlil, Enlil, there was only one purpose for the Lulus: to toil in place of the Nibiruans. So this person told me that, and I looked this shit up, and I wrote it in my own book. And I had a high-level wizard, whoever you want to call him, tell me, hey, bro, you used to be a pharaoh, a Nibiru, high-ranking bloodline. And I was like, yeah, okay, sounds good, whatever. In my book on page 92, I wrote this shit almost 20 years ago. The Lulus were created to take the place of the Nibiruans in the gold mines near Sumner as servants. Enlil had one of the most extreme Anunnaki profiles, very violent and prone to anger, indignant, jealous, highly self-centered. These are all the attributes and characteristics. If you ask anybody in my family, when I was a kid, I had all of that shit. He had minimal scientific and technological skills. Same thing. And little reflective capacity. No compassion. That's why. That's the dark side. All of this, what I just read, that's the dark side of my giftedness. Enki, on the other hand, was the chief scientist who had a contrast, had a powerful mind, astounding reflective capabilities. All of this describes my brother, who's the pastor that I talk about all the time. Reflective capabilities. And it goes on to describe his intelligence, his understanding, his capacity to proliferate, his blah, blah, blah. And then it talks about how they were cloning males or making, I'm going to use the word, they use the word cloning, but making that was both durable and easy to manipulate and multiply. Multiplication of the species by sexual reproduction. They gave them their own baseline temperaments. So if you do not transmute these baseline temperaments, that's 3D. 3D is all the shit that I've been dealing with, the fun, fighting, and effing. If you don't transmute your baseline temperament that's placed inside of you, that's the reptilian. That shit's in your head, bruh. It's in your head, sis. Don't believe me? Go to Google, type in triune brain, and look at that shit in the base of your brain. That's the reptile that's placed in there by the Anunnaki to keep you in 3D. So you can't receive the upgrade to your DNA, even though Source is sending you the frequency. You have an electrical fence around you that you are producing with your thoughts. Because as I said yesterday and the day before, and I've been saying for 20 years, chemistry that is created in the brain is a result of thoughts that you are maintaining. You maintaining the thoughts. You keeping God out. Source code. So you can't produce. So brothers and sisters, your ability to produce automatically. According to John Ramirez, ex-CIA agent. You can Google him. Chris Mellon, again, another ex-CIA agent. They were all part of the mind hacking program. And they said, all Navy SEALs, I was trained in the same thing. The brain needs a reason to turn off. The brain cannot stop thinking unless it connects back with the true, again, according to the ancient text, living library. That's the asterisk records. That's your DNA imprint. That's the code that's hidden. Remember, they put that shit in there, and Lil put it in there because he knew basically he was going to forget or be controlled or be manipulated by Enki or vice versa. Meaning, they kind of hid a program inside of you, the good Anunnakis, because they bad Anunnakis had erased it. So they put it back in there and they left it dormant, knowing that one day a cosmic event that is set up by a source code to elevate the consciousness of our species on a specific planet. So they knew it was going to lie dormant inside of you until the sun released the CMEs to activate. So that's why the dominant culture, number one, they got to get you off the planet. Or number two, they got to block the sun. That's what Bill Gates is doing, both. China already has an artificial sun. Bill Gates is spraying the air with the only thing that can reflect the sun, and that's aluminum and metal. BANAL. Why? It's a very reflective, so the sun, the rays that you need, you don't receive. So your job tonight, you got to do one thing. What's your takeaway? What's your homework? What do you need to hear to drive you into an emotional frenzy? That's the dark side of it. Meaning, you can be driven or you can be led. Either way, it's like I'm going to drag you kicking and screaming all the way to stop thinking, or you can just stop thinking on your own. Either way, you got to stop thinking. It is up to you. So I'm going to say words that's going to drive you. You will stop listening to me, or you're going to stop thinking and you're going to move forward and you're going to do what source code is designed to get you to do. Or I will give you a reason. The brain needs a reason to turn off thinking. What is the reason? You think you need. So the brain, anytime it's in survival mode, it has to think, how am I going to survive? So you got to turn off survival mode. You got to turn on thrival. You are in survival. I got to survive, Doc. I got to hustle. I got to grind. I got bills. I got. So you can't thrive. So anytime there is a sense or a feeling, I have to survive. It's hard out here for a pimp. Bam, ADD, all of the mental issues that activates what? Fun, fighting, and effing. We call that negative behavior or 3D. So you got to stay in 3D. You can't go up to 4, 5, 6. You got to get up to 9, really 12. And you still down on 3. You're still in the body. You got to go through the soul to get to the spirit. Why are you in the body, though? Survival. So you have to change your perspective and realize I don't have to survive. How did I do it? I make sure that I make $1,000 a day. What does that do to my brain? I'm generating more than I spend. So my brain says, we good. We can relax now. Look at your bank account, bro. So I exercise. I can eat whatever I want. My weight goes up, it goes down. I don't care. Why? I check my blood pressure. I check my cholesterol level. My organs, everything works. There's no pain. Everything functions according to its purpose. Am I in perfect health? You can always improve. But what are you saying? I'm not afraid. I'm not concerned. What's the bird? I don't care. So what am I doing? I'm removing all concern and caring. So financially, good. Health, good. Knowledge, good. Relationship, good. So now, bam, I'm thriving. So my brain disconnects my reptilian brain. It tells the reptile, we don't need you, bro. We got it. The reptile is here for your safety. The reptile keeps you in fun, fighting, and effing mode. That's survival mode. Well, boo-boo, you ain't got to survive no more. But we got a problem. You don't know you don't have to survive. You still believe your perception is off. Now, what if you don't increase your income or you don't increase? What if you weigh 600 pounds? Well, you got to do what the Navy SEALs do. You got to change your perception. You got to make it okay for you to be 600 pounds. What happens when you do that? The weight falls off because there's no need to keep it. So how did I change my income level? I made it okay for me not to make $1,000 a day. And then what happened? I started making $1,000 a day. How come? I stopped worrying about it. Remember, money is repelled by worry. Worrying is the same thing as worshiping. So remember, worshiping is the same thing as drawing. Just like when you go to church and you worship God, you put your energy into God. When you care, when you worry, when you have anxiety, when you have concern, you're putting your energy into poverty. So worrying is worshiping poverty. Worrying is like tongue kissing the devil in the mouth. If you have any ideals, thoughts of being successful in your life, you cannot afford, you don't have the luxury of a worrying thought. Worry is worship. The same way when you go to church and you have faith in God, worry is faith in the devil. God meaning good or prosperity, devil meaning bad or poverty. That's all it means. So money cannot be attracted to you. Money is repelled by fear, doubt, and unbelief. Whatever you fail to govern, rule, control, manage, and lead, bam, you lose. If you can't manage it, you lose it. Source code will not send you anything that you can't manage, including yourselves or AK yourself. You're born to be real. You weren't born to be perfect. So, guess what? You can stop. Worrying is worshiping the problem, not the solution. Why would you worship the problem? Remember, whatever you worship, that's what you become. Worrying is worshiping the problem. That's why you have problems. Now, remember, worrying, the new age worrying means, oh, Doc, I'm not worried, my brother. Praise him. I got faith. I believe Jesus is, worrying is thinking. So thinking is the same thing as worrying. The same thing as fear. It's the same thing as concern. All that shit. Tomorrow you come up with a new buzzword. Well, Doc, I'm not thinking. I'm not worrying. I am. Whatever word you come up with, it's the same shit. Remember, the devil been doing this shit for thousands of years. The sins of the fathers passed down to the third and the fourth generation. So the enemy, he already knows. The shit's in your DNA. But the solution is in your DNA too. So what do we do tomorrow? Tomorrow, you turn off worry. How? How do you turn off worry? By not worrying. How do you not worry? By having, now, you may have to write shit down like I started out. I don't have to write shit down no more. Now I plan the things that I need to do to get money. So in the morning, when I wake up, what do I need to do to draw money to me? When I say get money, I don't mean go out and make it. When I say get money, I mean draw it because you're a magnet. So how do I how to add value? How do I add value? I have to talk about, present something that other people want. I got to solve a problem. So every day, my brain is consumed. So I can't worry. Because why? I'm actually doing a show. I'm actually doing a one-on-one. I'm actually working on a book. I'm actually working on a Dear Canoe report. I'm actually setting up a client's website. So I actually engage in production of money. Then I'm also engaged in the process of keeping money. How do I keep money? I always got more money coming in than going out. And I'm actually spending money. But spending money for me means spending money. Spending money means I'm recycling money. So give and it shall be given. So the more money I put out is the more money I get back. So I'm a cheerful giver. So I have no problem paying my bills early and on time. Why? Because I know the faster I pay my bills, the faster other people pay their bills. So the way that I pay my bills is the way that you pay me. So I don't have no problems no more with people paying me late. Why? I stopped paying people late. I don't have no problem with people who don't pay me. Why? I don't call, text, or remind or hassle people who don't pay me. Why? I'm too busy making money to be worried about the 2 or 3 people who don't pay me money because I'm giving. So that's what you do tomorrow. Tomorrow you wake up and you focus all of your attention on your plan of production. And your plan of production is to put forth value into the market. Make yourself valuable. How do you make yourself valuable? Just be yourself. Because you have value. How do you be yourself? Look at your numbers. Because the numbers replace low vibrational jinns with high vibrational angels. Jinn and angels, that just simply means genes. Genes just simply means electrons, which means God. Protons, which means cross, which means light. So you are a God of light that activates and lives inside of a neuron, which is, again, inside of the brain. You got billions of neurons in the brain. All you got to do is light them up. Brothers and sisters, I love you. I appreciate you. And there ain't nothing you can do about it. We're going to see everybody tomorrow. God bless.